The night sky stretched over the city like velvet sprinkled with light, and the rooftop garden glowed under strings of golden bulbs. She stood at the edge, her hands wrapped around a glass of sparkling water, her eyes lost in the skyline. The party. Behind her was alive with laughter and the hum of expensive conversations, but she didn't belong to any of it. She was just the event planner, the one who made everything perfect, then disappeared before anyone noticed her, until he noticed her, the billionaire host. Tall and quiet, with eyes that carried storms, walked away from the crowd and stopped a few steps behind her. She felt it before she saw him, that strange shift in the air, when someone looks at you, not through you. He spoke softly. "You're the only person here not pretending to enjoy this." She turned, startled. "I'm just working, sir." He smiled faintly. "You say that like it's a shield." She looked down, embarrassed. "You hired me to make this night beautiful, not to talk to you." He took a slow step closer. "And yet here I am talking to you anyway." Something in his tone made her look up. The lights flickered softly between them. Her heart fluttered painfully loud. "I should get back to the guests," she said quickly. But he shook his head. "Don't. They'll survive a few minutes without you." The silence between them stretched warm, fragile. Then he said it quietly, almost a whisper. "Can I kiss you?" Her breath caught the question hanging between them like the last note of a song. She blinked, searching his face for mockery, but found only sincerity, only something raw and real beneath the polish of his world. "I'm not like the people you're used to," she whispered. He smiled a little. "That's why I asked." Her voice shook barely. Audible, "Why me?" He stepped closer, eyes steady. "Because you're the first thing tonight that doesn't feel empty." The air between them trembled with the kind of stillness that only comes before something irreversible. Her pulse raced as he took another step closer, his hand brushing against hers just enough to feel the warmth of his skin. The city lights glittered behind him like stars trying to listen, and then without another word, he leaned in slow, careful, like he was giving her every chance to stop him. She didn't move. When his lips finally touched hers, it wasn't the kind of kiss that burns through you. It was soft, hesitant, almost trembling, like two people afraid to believe in something real again. For a second, the noise of the world vanished, no laughter, no music, no crowd, just the sound of her heart echoing against his. Then he pulled back his eyes, searching hers, his voice barely a whisper. "I shouldn't have done that." She shook her head, still breathless. "Maybe not." But it didn't feel wrong. He smiled faintly. "I haven't felt right in a long time until now." She looked at him, really looked past the confidence, the headlines, the perfect suit, and saw something she hadn't expected. Loneliness, the kind she recognized, because she carried the same weight in her own chest. He stepped back, trying to collect himself. "I'm sorry, you probably think this is a mistake," she whispered. "Do you?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "No, and that's what scares me most." For the rest of the night, neither of them went back to the party. They sat on the edge of the rooftop talking about everything that had nothing to do with money or fame, about childhood dreams and moments they'd lost somewhere along the climb. By the time the lights dimmed below them, he said quietly, "I came here tonight surrounded by people, and I've never felt lonelier." She smiled softly. "Me too. Maybe that's why you found me." He looked at her. The city reflected in his eyes. "Maybe that's why I won't let you disappear again." The next morning, the city woke beneath a pale gold sky, but neither of them could stop thinking about the night before. She tried to lose herself in work, answering emails, arranging flowers for another event. Yet her fingers kept pausing on the same thought. What if he meant it? At the same time, miles away in a glass office overlooking that same skyline, the billionaire sat behind his desk, a contract open in front of him, completely unread. His assistant's voice faded into background noise because all he could see was her face, the softness in her eyes when she whispered, "It didn't feel wrong by afternoon." He gave up pretending to focus. He grabbed his jacket and left, ignoring every call that tried to stop him. He didn't know what he'd say, or if she even wanted to see him again. All he knew was that something inside him refused to go back to the emptiness before her. When he found her at the small cafe where she usually planned her events, she looked up in shock, nearly spilling her coffee. "You can't just walk in like that," she said, smiling despite herself. He sat down across from her, his voice low. "I don't know what happened last night, but I haven't stopped thinking about it." She looked away. Trying to calm her racing heart last night was unexpected. He nodded. "I know, and maybe it was crazy, but for the first time in years it felt real," she sighed. "You don't even know me." He leaned forward. "I want to. That's why I'm here." She laughed quietly. "You're used to getting what you want, aren't you?" He smiled. "Maybe, but I think this time I want to earn it." Something in his tone made her chest tighten all over again. She met his gaze and saw the truth there. No arrogance, no performance, just honesty and a fear he didn't know how to hide. She whispered, "You think one kiss can change everything?" He smiled softly. "No, I think the right person can." Days passed, and what began as a single night on a rooftop quietly grew into something neither of them had planned. He started showing up to the cafe not as a billionaire, but as a man who wanted to learn her world. He helped her carry boxes to events, stayed behind after parties to stack chairs and clean tables, while everyone else chased champagne and fame. She would laugh every time he ruined his expensive shoes in puddles of melted ice, and he would just smile, saying, "Maybe this is the first real work I've done in years." They talked about everything: dreams they'd buried, people they'd lost, promises they hadn't kept. With him, she stopped pretending. With her, he stopped performing. Each day the walls between their lives thinned, until it felt like they'd known each other long before that first kiss. One evening, as the city lights flickered below them again, they stood on the same rooftop where it all began. She looked up at him, her hair brushing against the wind. "You never told me why you kissed me that night." He smiled softly. "Because you were the only thing in the room that didn't feel fake. And I didn't want the moment to end." She looked down, her voice trembling. "And what about now?" He reached out gently, lifting her chin until her eyes met his. "Now I'm just trying to make sure it never does." She stepped closer, resting her forehead against his chest, and whispered quietly, "Maybe one kiss really can change everything." He smiled, wrapping his arms around her. It already did, and as the night settled over them, the city below glowing like a sea of fallen stars, two hearts that had been lonely for far too long finally found home in each other. If this story moved you, share it, so others never forget that one selfless act can rewrite a destiny in ways no one sees coming.